Hey everybody, this is Julius. I'm here to reintroduce the final entry into our X-Men MCU saga, the narrative podcasts. This is the third part. We released part 2 last week. We released the first part the week before that. And this is the finale of the X-Men story. But it is not the end of their involvement in our saga. Next week we're going to have the first part of the Fantastic Four story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we're excited to finally get back to Secret Wars. Now keep in mind that these were released a couple years ago, so some of the ideas may be outdated, especially with things like WandaVision out there. This originally came out in 2019, I believe in July. So with that in mind, I hope you guys enjoy these stories, the discussions between me and Angel, and get excited because the real stuff is still on its way. Have a good one, stay safe, and enjoy. What's happening, everybody? My name is Julius.
And I'm Angel.
Angel, guess what?
What's going on?
The end is near. It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for. Earlier this year, we had a part 1 video of the X-Men in the MCU. X-Men, stories. Everyone can watch it. A lot of people have watched it. Thank you all for watching that. I was telling you my idea, my story for the X-Men in the MCU, starting at the very beginning. It was pretty emotional, coming up with, because this is part 3. For those who don't know, this is part 3. It's the end. This is the end of the X-Men in the MCU, in this narrative you're about to hear. Angel, do you want to tell the people about the films previous that you were lucky enough to listen to firsthand?
Absolutely. Previously on X-Men. So, Julius put out 2 phases previous to this. We're going to get into phase 3 of the X-Men, but in the first 2 phases, just to kind of sum it up for you guys, the first phase was really about the X-Men coming out, and the second phase was the aftermath, the consequences, the fear, the tension, the exposure of the X-Men. But in the first phase, Julius put out 4 movies for the X-Men. They were considered to be anthology movies, yes, which were just so wonderful to hear. So if you guys get the chance, go check out those videos. Julius put them out early on the channel. But
in phase 1, it was Cyclops.
Yeah, Cyclops, Iceman,
and Angel.
Jean Grey was a prequel film, and the 4th one was the Uncanny X-Men. In Cyclops, it was where the Brotherhood was introduced. In Iceman, it was a love story. It also dealt with religion and with the inclusion of Angel, because it is a love story between those two, which was great because it deals into the themes of, identity and love and who you are.
And Ufue will tell you it's great.
Yeah, exactly. The 3rd one with
Jean Grey.
Jean Grey, that was kind of inspired by Mandy, and the Hellfire Club was involved.
And
she was
now,
raised by Sebastian Shaw.
The Hereditary.
Yeah. Oh, damn, yeah, bro. Damn, that's wicked there. So yeah, that one's like that, and the Uncanny X-Men. That's kind of about the X-Men becoming like a worldwide phenomenon there. And then we move on to phase 2, which gets even crazier, ladies and gentlemen. In phase 2, it kicks off with Storm, who is known as the Storm of Wakanda, and she kind of faces off against the Shadow King and learns how to control her powers and becomes her own hero and decides her own fate, and it's not decided by anybody else, which is just really cool. And then we have, continuing that one for the second film, it's Thunderbird and the Morlocks, and I love that one a lot because that one dives further into religion and Stryker as the Reverend, the antagonist.
Native American culture.
Yeah, exactly. We have our first Native American superhero on screen, which is super exciting. And then we also have, after that, we have
Colossus and Nightcrawler.
Yeah, Colossus and Nightcrawler. That one's really cool because we get to see Mr. Sinister as the antagonist. And I find him to be a really intriguing villain with the way that Julius brought him in, because that one's really about seeing the X-Men from their own perspective, from their own kind, and he considers them to be an abomination. He lingers in self-loathing, self-hatred, because he feels like another villain can just pop up and be like, hey, look,
like him,
I'm a mutant, yeah, I could be worse. So he wants to kind of prevent that, which is just super complex and interesting, something we haven't seen before. in a villain.
Yeah, because he had the power, unknowing power to kill his wife.
Right.
Because he had mind manipulation.
Yeah,
it's kind
that's
of what
right.
was going on with Kilgrave in
Yeah.
Jessica Jones.
That's right.
And that kind of set him off the deep end.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Stryker on steroids,
Yeah.
like with the way he thinks.
Oh,
Yeah.
And in that film, Bryan Cranston would be Sinister.
Yeah, that
Imagine that.
you guys got to check out those videos. They're so in depth. This is just surface level stuff here. And then
surface shit.
And then following that, we have Wolverine versus the Hulk. I mean, what better way to introduce Wolverine into the MCU? Wolverine was first introduced in the comics against the Hulk.
181, 181, and 182, I believe.
Yeah, make him a bounty hunter, get him hired by, or let him be hired from General Ross there, hunting down the Hulk.
The significance about that one was that it was set back in 2009
in between Avengers and the Incredible Hulk,
Yeah.
to kind of show how the Hulk became unstable.
Yeah.
Basically,
because he met Wolverine.
Because he met Wolverine.
That's such a great idea.
Let him out of the cage. And then we also get like a cameo from the Mutant Task Force, with Sabretooth, with Omega Red,
Lady
Deadpool,
Deathstrike.
Lady Deathstrike. Exactly. So that's a really cool story there. And then you get to see them team up at the end, of course, because
Nick Fury's in there. He
Heroes,
gives him
baby.
the suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have, after that, we have concluding Phase 2, which is a prelude to Phase 3. We have X-Men Legacy, and that one kind of wraps up the entire story arc of Phase 2, and in line with the themes, which is the X-Men finding a new home and protecting each other and becoming just global heroes, and finally being able to prosper in whatever they want to choose.
What would you say are some of the most significant things to happen in that story, in X-Men Legacy, at the very end?
I think the most significant thing that we could see is maybe the merger between the X-Men and the Brotherhood. I would like to see a resolution there.
I mean,
between...
like what actually did happen.
In the story.
In the story, there were some big things that happened there.
Let me try to remember. I remember them going to Utopia,
Right.
where Mr. Sinister... Well, we see Mr. Sinister again.
Right, Mr. Sinister is the villain. He has an
Right.
army of kind of human sentinels.
That's right.
And he's coming after the X-Men.
Yeah, and it's not just Sentinels. There's Sentinels combined with Reavers, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is crazy.
Frightening.
So yeah, they go to Utopia. They fight there, and then...
Yeah. Well, at the end of that story, probably the most significant thing is that Charles and Magneto reunite.
Right.
And they both die at the very end alongside Sinister, because their time had passed at that point.
remember that.
Scott is now the leader. He's the one shepherding his people
Yeah.
to safety at the end of that book.
Yeah.
Or at the end of that book, the end of that pitch.
Yeah, and Scott and Jean get married.
Yes.
Wolverine is teaching a course about self-defense, right?
With Storm, yeah.
With Storm. What else? What's
Thunderbird dies.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. That killed me.
And I love that character too.
Yeah, I know. I know.
The avenging spirit.
When we were on the phone about Phase 3 setting this up, like when we were going to meet to do it, Angel says to me, Thunderbird better come back. Yeah. Well, there obviously in these two phases, a lot happens.
Yeah.
A lot is set up. I wanted to just give everyone a kind of a time frame because I wasn't sure, but then I kind of figured it out, so everyone knows when these films are set. The films before the Uncanny X-Men, Cyclops, Iceman, and Angel, and Jean Grey, they lead up to the Uncanny X-Men, obviously, which is set in 2025. So there's that. X-Men Legacy is set, obviously, in 2027, 2 years after that. The next of X-Men film in Phase 3, which we're about to get into, is set in 2029.
Ooh.
So, this is kind of like a tight, knit story. All the films are set in between, before, after, and everything. So, I like that you brought up the themes. Thank you for doing that, because I was thinking about what could the overarching theme be for this final part, this final phase. And, one thing that I figured, was that everyone is trying their best to be a good person. And, their intentions are very different from others in trying to be the best person they can. Their actions bounce off other people's actions who are trying to be just as good as them or even better. So that is kind of what the world is like now. You know, the world is afraid. Everyone is trying to do their best, keeping everything stable, especially after the death of the Martin Luther King and the Malcolm X of Mutant.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of scary times right now for mutants in the MCU. So now that we did that kind of little previously on X-Men, I think it's time to get into it. Angel, is there anything you want to say before we start?
I think you should leave a link to your playlist.
Oh, yes.
For Phase 3.
Yeah.
Julius put together a bunch of songs, I think, that inspired you to write the story, or that you just wrote along, listening to while writing. And, it's great, guys. I mean, I just want to mention the X-Men animated series epic theme in there. That is crazy, dude. If they ever use that in MCU, I think I'm going to rip my face off just of screaming so much, and my mouth is just going to be dropped to the floor.
Well, you know, the thing about that playlist is I sent it to Angel just to be like, hey, this might give you a feel of what the characters are doing, what they're feeling, their mindsets and everything. There were some songs that I left out because they would have been major spoilers. So when you're done with this and you see the link at the very end for the playlist, there are going to be some songs that you're like, oh shit, he's going there. All right, so it's time. It's time to start.
It's time.
So we got 4 films in this phase.
All right.
The first one we're starting with, I got a love story for you.
You know I love those.
Rogue and Gambit.
Yeah, baby. Yes. Yes. I'm getting my accent on. I'm ready for this.
Let's go. All right, Rogue and Gambit. And by the way, Rogue was introduced in the Jean Grey film in Phase 1, just so everyone gets it.
You're damn right.
Yeah, exactly. You're goddamn right.
I'm ready for this, man. I can't wait to see Rogue.
Let's do this.
Just the other day, I was thinking, man, how awesome is it going to be to hear, like, Kevin Feige just say, Rogue. Here's your Rogue. Here's your Gambit.
I'm painting my hair white.
Here's your Wolverine, you know? I'm painting my hair white.
Let's do it.
When Rogue shows up, I'm painting my hair white again.
Oh. Ever since her excommunication from the Hellfire Club in Jean Grey Phase 1, Anna Marie, a.k.a. Rogue, has been living under the radar in the slums of New Orleans. No one knows she's a mutant until she meets an outlaw named Remy LeBeau, a.k.a. Gambit, who robs corrupt banks. Remy has been on his own his whole life and has been screwed over by the system and his family. He charms her into joining him in attacking capitalist America, or at least capitalist Southern America. She looks at her lonely, suppressed state and accepts his offer. Over time, they grow an infamous reputation among Southern capitalists Remy deems criminal. Rogue uses her power of absorbing energy by touching someone's skin, so that includes powers, memories, life force, etc., to act as muscle. Gambit uses his control of kinetic energy to turn objects into explosives, so that's obviously good in robbing banks and jewelry and shit.
And poker.
Yeah, exactly. Remy acts as a sort of mentor to Rogue, teaching her to survive in ways that robbers are pro. Rogue and Gambit's relationship grows as well. Their feelings deepen. Rogue learns to actually trust in someone, which is a sharp contrast from her childhood in the Hellfire Club, where she was second best to Jean Grey. And Gambit learns to care about someone other than himself. Their status attracts not only the attention of police, but 2 Avengers. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, and a new model of the Vision come in to take Rogue and Gambit in. The 2 couples battle during a heist the mutants attempt in Louisiana. Rogue gets close to Wanda and touches her, borrowing her powers, but also getting a look inside her mind. She sees her whole life in a flash. She uses Wanda's reality warping powers against her, incapacitating her. Gambit holds off the Vision for a while until he rushes to Wanda's aid.
For a while.
For a little bit. We know.
Yeah,
The mutant couple take the opportunity to make a getaway. Rogue and Gambit get clear and realize they have to disappear. Remy decides they have to make one last big score so they can have enough to properly stay gone and be safe. Rogue tells him that he saw why Wanda and Vision were sent for them through the witch's memories. Their robberies have hurt people in ways that Gambit couldn't account for, that he didn't know about. Remy thought he was hitting criminals only, but he didn't account for everyday people who put their money away unknowingly in these banks. Gambit decides he's too deep in and gives Rogue one last chance to come with him and continue the heist. She denies, and he leaves. Rogue doesn't know what to do. She gets flashbacks of memories, but not hers. The life of Wanda Maximoff highlights across her mind. But Rogue is in her place. The Hydra experiments, the death of Quicksilver, the deaths of the Vision. She decides to make what she can right. In a southern hospital, Wanda is in a coma with the Vision by her bedside. The two are visited by Rogue, who brings flowers. The two talk about their partners and how relationships can be difficult. She asks the Vision what he'd do to save Wanda. He replies, absolutely anything. She deserves that. Rogue agrees, deciding to stop Gambit to save him. Before leaving, Rogue apologizes to the android, telling him that she never wanted to hurt anyone, especially one of her own. The Vision asks what she means. She tells him, ain't it obvious? The girl's a mutant. Rogue leaves, a stunned boyfriend. In southern Florida, Remy pulls a heist on a major bank, taking down guards, grabbing 2 cases of $500 million each. You know, he's balling right now, and makes a run for it. Rogue comes in trying to stop him, but he gets past her. Gambit gets in a getaway car and heads for the coast. You know, I'm out. Let's go.
Let's go to the casino.
Let's go. Rogue catches up and confronts him. She doesn't want to fight, so she convinces him that he doesn't need to steal to survive. They need each other. They can rely on each other. Gambit is unsure, but realizes that his time with Rogue made him a better man. Gambit gives up the money, returning it to the people who were really affected, not the bankers, but the civilians, and he's helped by Rogue. The two know they can't stay in America because the heat on them is too hot. They're national fugitives. Rogue tells Remy that she has an idea. Weeks later, the two mutants ride on a cargo ship to the Indian Ocean. They arrive at a small island called Utopia, home of mutants and the X-Men. Rogue meets Jean, her surrogate sister, and their surrogate mother, Mystique, who welcome them on the island. The former family make their peace, only happy to see her. Gambit approaches the ladies, smooth as ever. Rogue and Gambit meet the mutants hand in hand. Post-credit scene. In the hospital, Wanda lays in her coma. She twitches, hearing voices. Memories of Rogue's past flash. Rogue's voice echoes in her mind. The girl's a mutant. The girl's a mutant. The girl is a mutant. Wanda's eyes open. Suddenly, she's scared. Her eyes are red, momentarily, until they die down. Rogue and Gambit will return.
Hey, man, dude. I think you outdid yourself. You outdid yourself here.
Yeah?
I loved this movie. It definitely reminded me of, like, kind of like Bonnie and Clyde.
That was the inspiration.
You know?
That was the main inspiration.
It totally works for these two characters. I think they're just so different, and I think their dynamic would just be really. It would literally be fire on the screen, man. And I love the inclusion of Scarlet Witch. I love that we can finally recognize her as a mutant now.
Yes.
And there's always that possibility of her being the daughter of Magneto and just not knowing it. You know, like we the great thing about the MCU is that they're always expanding their own mythology. Like, they add something later. The most recent example would be like Mysterio's backstory, how he was there behind the scenes of Civil War and the technology of Barf. Same thing could be done with Magneto, him being the father of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And the death of Quicksilver could probably ignite the rage within him between mutants versus humans. Because if you really think about it, Tony created Ultron. Ultron killed Quicksilver. Magneto could think that death is the result of a human, someone that is not like us. Iron Man is not like us. He may be a hero, but he's not one of us. He's not a mutant.
Brightburn right there.
So that to me is really cool, and I love how they end up on Utopia and stuff.
Yes.
They're on the run. They're kind of trying to figure out what to do the right thing, and those choices lead them to their purpose. awesome.
One of the things I wanted to do while writing this story was I wanted to make a movie about how mutants, or minorities in this case, can be forced into a lower social and economic class.
That's great. Yeah, that's very much like Good Time with Robert Pattinson that came out recently. Him and his brother, they're put in a position where they don't have the ability to thrive. And I just thought it was a great film about how capitalism kind of makes this class structure of the privileged and the underprivileged. And those directors, the Safdie brothers, actually would be a perfect choice for Rogue and Gambit. Yes. Like, it's lit. Let's get it. I'm so down.
That's kind of the thing. It's not a case of good and evil. It's a case of this thing that's set in stone.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It's what it is. There's no villain in this film.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the most distinct things about it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
This is Date Night, the film. Double date. Rogue and Gambit, double date. You know?
The obstacle is just their existence and where it gets them and how it limits them as well.
And if there's obviously the elephant in the room, Channing Tatum. I mean, I'd be down if he came in for this. I think he could easily do it, but
he's just got to do the accent.
The accent is important.
The accent he did in Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, it just didn't work for me.
Well, then okay, so if we weren't using Channing, right? There's always the fan casts that we've done. Yeah. You and I have done fan casts about the X-Men. I've always pictured those actors and those being these types of characters. Like in the X-Men fan cast part 2 that we did, we fan casted Gambit, and you did Luc Besson?
I forgot what his name was, but he's in Hacksaw Ridge.
And I did Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell from Total Recall remake, which
in Bruges,
In Bruges. I imagined him in this role, and I thought that would have been really amazing.
Oh man, he could do it. He's a phenomenal actor. I have no worry that he could pull off that accent.
Yes. Okay. All right. So we said everything we need to say about Rogue and Gambit. It's awesome.
Dope.
Let's do it. So the next one. Are you ready for this next one?
I'm ready. Give it to me.
Well, she goes by many different names in the X-Men comics, but I love her because she's my favorite female X-Man, Kitty Pryde. And I think she might be one of your favorites, especially after reading Astonishing X-Men.
Hell yeah, she's astonishing, man. You just made me hit falsetto right now. That's how excited I am.
Okay, Andy Bernard. All right.
I'm going to go through this mic right now.
All right, let's do this. Let me just drink some tea.
She's so dope.
Gotta catch my breath. Can you fill in some?
I love Kitty Pryde, baby. I can talk about her all day. Kitty Pryde. I want that costume.
Shadowcat.
I want her on me, the costume on me.
I want her. All right. Catherine Kitty Pryde is a sales associate at Accutech Research and Development in Detroit. It's a company that deals with cybernetic engineering and enhancement. It has some ties to Stark Technology, actually. Her life is small, quiet, and reserved. When at work, Kitty feels lifeless and held back. This is mainly because she is a mutant, with the power to phase through walls and disrupt electrical fields, technology, electrical signals to the brain, and such and such. She notices that the world around her is becoming safer for mutants, but memories of her mother's warning about humanity and how they'll treat her when they keep her back, they keep her secluded. Kitty is ordered by her boss to stay late and do some late night filing, because that's what an office worker does. While filing over and over and over again for hours, she feels an overwhelming rage and starts throwing everything around, destroying this office, messing with the computers and everything. She phases her hand through all these different hard drives, destroying everything. Her rage takes over, and she ends up blacking out. The next morning, Kitty wakes up at home, alone, with no memory. She sees that she's late for work and rushes out. While walking to her job, she feels a presence behind her, but she's unsure. Now and again, she sees a young Asian woman in a yellow coat in the near distance. Kitty continues her way. When she gets to her job, her building and everything, she sees the building surrounded by police and FBI agents. The building has been robbed of a specific piece of equipment from the MARC project, Miniature Arc Reactor.
Oh.
The employees of Accutech are given a 2-week leave of absence with pay so they can fix it up. Amongst the crowd, Kitty considers if she was involved in the robbery. But as the crowd disperses, she's knocked around.
That's crazy.
The Asian girl knocks into her as well. Kitty leaves for home, but is watched by a man with blonde hair in a trench coat from the distance. When home, Kitty notices a note in her pocket that says, "Coffee House, 4 p.m." She looks at her clock and it's 3:30 p.m.
Better not be Luke Cage.
Yeah, it's Luke Cage. Begrudgingly, Kitty goes to the coffee house and meets the Asian woman face to face. The Asian woman introduces herself as Jubilee.
Oh! Fireworks, baby!
Jubilee, the ex-woman of Detroit. And this girl, I love this girl. She's excited. She's a wannabe superhero. She's great.
She's from the same hometown as RoboCop.
Kitty doesn't believe that she's with the X-Men, which is wise because Jubilee isn't. But she really does want to be one day. It's her aspiration to be a superhero, a mainstream one. The stranger tells Kitty that she recognizes her as a mutant and knows that she robbed Accutech. Kitty denies being the robber. She's like, "What are you talking about? I can't even break. I can't even be late to freaking work. What are you talking about?" After talking, the two are interrupted by the blonde-haired man from earlier with the trench coat, who tries forcing them both to come with him. Jubilee says he looks really familiar, but they still refuse. Like, "No, dude, we're not going with you. You're a fucking creep."
Yeah.
The blonde man attacks them with a blue energy blast, which tears a hole in the coffee shop. People they scatter all over the place, and Kitty is scared, but she just decides instinctively to help people by phasing them out of the wreckage, very clumsily, by the way, because he's not a superhero. Jubilee takes on the assailant, using her powers of energy projectiles to distract him. She fights him hand to hand as well, and she is badass. She's been training. She's not just some sort of kid with a dream. Mm-hmm. She has the goods to back him up. Kitty gets the people out of the coffee house and saves Jubilee before she gets pummeled because she's still a novice. The blonde man leaves the scene. Kitty and Jubilee make it to the Pride's apartment. They freak out. Kitty is scared. Jubilee, oddly enough, is excited. Or not oddly enough, that's who she is.
Who is this creep?
The door is knocked and Kitty opens it, meeting Detective Jamie Madrox. He comes to them asking questions about both crime scenes, job and coffee house, which from earlier in the day. They both deny it, and Madrox leaves, but keeping an eye on the two. Jubilee wants Kitty and her to team up and solve the mutant crimes, but Kitty wants her to leave. She's like, "Get out of my life. I don't need any of this craziness." And Kitty does. Or Jubilee does. I'm getting all mixed up. I'm getting mind-wiped like Kitty Pryde. Later that night, Kitty can't sleep due to the shock of what's happened and flashbacks of her mother telling her that she can't be herself and has to lay low for the rest of her life. She gets up, once again, enraged, filled with red, and leaves her apartment. She goes to a supermarket where other mutants are, and a truck pulls up, and mutants, they start to loot the store for supplies, and they fill this truck. And, Kitty's kind of lifeless at this point. She's kind of it's like she's programmed to be this way. Jubilee appears, confronting Pride. Kitty, she starts mindlessly attacking while the others continue to fill the truck. It's a tricky fight for Jubilee and Kitty because one has the power to distract and the other has the power to get away. A cop car comes quick with Detective Madrox, arresting both mutants. The truck and others get away. Jubilee takes the distraction as a chance to knock out Kitty. Kitty wakes up in an interrogation room separated from Jubilee, who's scared. Madrox questions her about what her and the other mutants are planning. She has no idea, once again, of what happened. She has no idea of what he's talking about. Before he gets a chance to ask more questions, the police station is attacked by the blonde man, the stranger from earlier, with blue blasts. He comes for Kitty, saying she's waiting for us. Kitty gets enraged again, uncontrollably, and escapes while Madrox tries to stop the attacker, but releases Jubilee for help, because, look, I need some help here, okay? Jubilee manages to knock out the attacker, but sees Madrox hurt fatally. This turns out to be a decoy. Madrox is actually a mutant whose power is to multiply himself.
No way.
From the comics, this is a character called the Multiple Man.
That's right.
The attacker wakes up, not attacking, but confused. He reveals his name is Alex Summers, the missing brother of Cyclops.
Where's he been?
He tells the two that he's been controlled by someone called the White Queen for years.
No way.
Jubilee and Madrox realize that Kitty is under the same control. Madrox says he'll call in backup. Special backup. In the sewers of Detroit, Kitty wanders, still angry, thinking about her mother's comments, thinking about all the terrible moments in her life that have led up to this moment. She hears distant voices coming across a small cult-looking society. Other mutants welcome her, leading her to their leader, the White Queen. The Queen introduces herself as Emma Frost, leader of the Hellfire Club. She tells Pride that she's used her power of influencing emotions to gather specific mutants for the coming New World Order. Together, they're going to save mutant kind. Together, they're going to be heroes. Terrified, Kitty denies the offer. She's a bit more clear-headed now that she's, it's been some time. Seeing no use of the girl, Frost orders her mutants to dispose of her. She's quickly incapacitated and thrown into the sewer stream. She ends up at one of the shores of the Detroit River. Kitty wakes up, beaten and alone. She wants to run again and starts thinking back to her mom, telling her that the only way to be safe is to be compliant and quiet. She realizes where those beliefs got her, at the end of a sewer, and realizes she can do more than that. She takes a deep breath, stands up tall as she can, and she gets ready to go back. Back at the Hellfire Club in the sewers, the underground cult, Frost tells her mutants to get ready for an assault on Detroit. They'll hold the city as a stronghold. Madrox appears, placing Frost under arrest, and she just laughs this off. She's like, "You're just a cop, you can't do anything." Summers comes back as backup and knocks Frost out with a blast.
Oh yeah.
Frost's mutants charge at Summers, but he's helped by Jubilee and an army of Madrox copies of multiple men. They all battle viciously. Kitty shows up and helps. She joins Jubilee, telling her that she was right. Their side is being overpowered by the Hellfire Club. Suddenly, the Madrox special backup that he was calling before shows up. And it's Colossus, who crashes through the wall. Frost wakes up, seeing the mutants fighting. Before giving out her order, Kitty makes her way to the Queen and sticks her hand through her head. She sticks her hand through her head. She tells her to let the mutants go or she'll pull out her brain. Frost gives up, letting the mutants go, seeing what's gonna happen. She tells Kitty that everything bad that will happen to their people and their culture is on her. Kitty lets her go, and Frost is arrested. She goes quietly, head held up high. She's convinced that she was in the right the whole time. Kitty, Jubilee, and Summers stand outside of the sewer, seeing that the mutants get psych-evals and headed home to their families. Colossus appears, he approaches them, introducing himself officially. Kitty is taken with the rush, and he's like, "Oh shit, who is this guy?" And Jubilee is just excited to meet an X-Man. Madrox comes up to the three, telling them he's under orders to take them in for questioning, but would have trouble if they got away. Colossus tells them they're welcome to return with him to Utopia, especially Alex, who's caused enough havoc in Detroit. Summers accepts, wanting to reunite with his brother. Jubilee accepts, wanting to be an X-Man. Kitty accepts, wanting to move on. Post-credit scenes! I got 2 for your ass right now.
Wow.
Number 1. Kitty, Jubilee, Havoc, and Colossus arrive to Utopia. They're greeted by Scott Summers, Cyclops, and Logan, Wolverine. Alex comes up to Scott, hugging him really tight, like, "I haven't seen you since we were children, The brothers are reunited. Jubilee looks at Wolverine, telling him that she could teach him a thing or two about fighting, and fashion, specifically. Kitty looks at Colossus, thanking him for a second chance. He responds saying, "That's all he's about." Kitty Pryde will return.
Oh my god.
Number 2. In an interrogation room, Emma Frost is questioned by Detective Madrox. He wants to know what her plan was. Hold the city hostage? What, be the next Magneto? She calls him and everyone else fools. She reinstituted the Hellfire Club to save mutant kind from the coming future. The prophecy. A prophecy that was about to unfold from Armageddon. Brought on by the world's most powerful mutant. That's it.
Oh my god, dude. That is killer. You're killing me with this. I love it so much. I love the emphasis on powers. How they all just have different powers. That's something I'm really looking forward to in the MCU. It's just like when we get people like Kitty Pryde, because Kitty Pryde has one of my favorite powers. The way that she can phase through things, the way that she can like jump to touch somebody that's about to get hit by a car and
she can be solid and insolid at the same time.
Like that to me is really interesting, and that's something I highly recommend to like as a reason to read Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men is for Kitty Pryde, because you do get like 3 panels of just her versus Emma Frost.
Yes.
Just with dialogue, you
Yes.
know. Emma Frost is putting on this facade that, like, you know, I'm good.
I'm the best.
And
I'm
then,
a good guy.
And Kitty Pryde, like, I don't need to trust you.
Like the first time
Yeah.
I met you, you took over the X-Men.
Yeah.
In the comic books, that's what happened.
Yeah.
She had to save the X-Men, and Emma Frost was a villain.
Yeah. So she's like, I don't need to trust you. I know who you are, and when you do mess up, I'll be there. Yes,
I
man.
definitely wanted to show that in this
Yes,
one.
man, and I totally got those vibes, but just further fleshed out. You know, I really, really enjoyed it. I love the mind manipulation story. I love the introduction of Alex Summers. I think it's a perfect reason to call him Havoc, because he has been mind
Causing
controlled
havoc.
by Emma Frost for who knows how many years, and Colossus coming in there to tie in Colossus and Nightcrawler, and finally introducing Jubilee and
Yeah.
you know,
I love
Kitty
Jubilee.
Pryde. So sick.
I love Jubilee. I love the character because there's this innocence to her.
Yeah.
That this world that's been set up in these phases has kind of been lacking.
Yeah.
Aside from people like James Proudstar, you know, they're very similar. People who want to be heroes.
Yeah, and I also love that you can kind of create a story revolving around their powers. You know, because their powers are contrast to each other, where
Yes.
one does distract, one can get away. So let's try to figure out how to.
How would the fight go?
Yeah, how would the fight go? How would the story go?
Yes.
How would they feel in these certain circumstances? That's all stuff that
Yes.
I love seeing you think about when you're putting together these stories.
Well, I definitely had a very different idea in the very beginning when I was coming up with the layout of Phase 3, and specifically this one. I was thinking, the original idea for this was very much in the line of a Jessica Jones, but it was too similar. And so I wanted to make something that homaged, heavily love-lettered Fight Club, which I love that film, I love that book. And I wanted to make kind of the MCU version of that, and hopefully I did it. You know.
Yeah, and I also love the reveals of characters that we know. Like, I think the way that you revealed Multiple Man was really clever. I totally could see him in that occupation. You know, kind of
As a detective.
interrogating, talking to different people, finding evidence and stuff. And so I really loved just seeing all the characters come together too.
Yes.
In the end, and fighting for what's right.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the whole idea of Fight Club is like, you're not special, you're not this.
Yeah.
This is the
Everything's
inverse
a copy
of
of
that.
a
Everything's a
copy
copy of a copy of and we got a guy who's a copy of a copy of a copy in this one. But this is kind of the inverse, the optimist version of a Fight Club, where powers are as normal as products, but it's what you do with them that makes them special. And I think that for a film, especially a Marvel film,
Yeah,
that could be very distinct.
I totally agree.
Okay. Let me just see if I got it in my notes, because I got notes. I came prepared. Shit. You don't want shit? It's an identity crisis, and that's what I wanted to get across. Okay, are you ready for this next one? We're
Give it to
halfway
me.
done.
Give it to me.
And this is a big one. This is going to be much more chunky, because we're getting near the end.
Let's hear it, man.
Um,
It's been spectacular so far.
Thank you, and we're definitely going to tie things together in a way that they hadn't been before, because this next film should have, arguably, some people might listen to the whole thing and be like, this should have been in Phase 1. Well, it wasn't, because I was getting him ready for this one, for this phase, the end.
What is it?
Beast.
No! My boy Hank.
My favorite X-Man. So you know I took time with this one.
Yeah.
So before anything, the biggest inspiration for this was Doctor Who. I love that show. I love the concept of it. I love the idea of taking fantastical elements and mixing them with morality, philosophy, and just ethics. And I think that this, hopefully, will capture that as well. This will be the Doctor Who of Marvel.
Hell yeah.
Our story begins at Bard College in New York 30 years ago, where mid-20s Hank McCoy sits in his dorm, isolated, conflicted, blue. A genius treated like a monster, Hank is visited by his father, Norton, Norton is dean of the school, who heard about a recent experiment his son conducted involving genetic reconstruction. Maybe, if he could find the key to shifting cells, there could be an answer to disease in general. Hank had no test subjects, so he used himself, and the effects lasted. The Beast we've known is cat-like, more or less. That's my favorite look of Beast. The one in Astonishing X-Men where he is reminiscent of a giant blue cat. I love that one. But at the beginning, he resembled a wolfman. His skin is only a shade of blue right now, 30 years ago. The evolution is just starting. His father sees his son as a failure, and finds that the only way he can learn is by punishing him. Hank is asked by his father to leave Bard College, calling the situation a missed opportunity. Hank is alone for the rest of his life. Or so he thinks. We catch up with Hank 30 years later, a month after the invasion of Xavier's School for the Gifted, which is X-Men Legacy. In a jet, he sits, watching the clouds pass by while the plane is autopiloted by his personal AI, Moira. He's headed to a rescue mission in Las Vegas, Nevada, where a bank robbery is happening by some lasting soldiers of Mr. Sinister's Sentinel program. And they have mutant-ready weapons. You know, the weapons they had back at the invasion, they have now, and they're causing havoc. Not havoc, but, you know. The X-Jet lands on the Las Vegas Strip, cutting off the escaping Sentinels. Hank comes out, blue and tidy, and he's by himself, because, you know, even though he's a nerd, he can handle some shit.
Yeah.
He's requesting that the assailants turn themselves in. And he's very prim and proper, very, you know, very distinct and just nice. Sociable. The soldiers target the mutant, but McCoy acts fast using an Essex destabilizer. This is a prototype device that can disarm mutant lethal weapons. Beast rushes to the soldiers and takes them out one by one. The lasting soldier stands to fight, but is taken down quickly. But he gets a few jabs in, calling Beast a freak, and telling him he can't stop the future. Mutant and human diplomacy is a lie. Hank turns the soldiers into the police. The next day, Hank flies to Washington, D.C., meeting with his colleagues at the Department of Human Mutant Discourse, foundation started by Hank McCoy and human diplomats. There, he meets his fellow delegate, Senator Robert Kelly, who is a mutant activist. In the original films, Robert Kelly was hating on mutants. Here he's liking them. Multiverse. They meet with the rest of the committee to follow up recent incidents across the world involving mutant victimization, Las Vegas being the most recent. An analyst displays a statistic showing that 4% of the 40 million mutants not on Utopia with the X-Men will be killed by the end of the year because of the constant spreading of the legacy virus, which was a big thing at the very end of X-Men Legacy.
Right.
And that's going to be 1.6 million people killed at the end of the year.
Jeez.
This startles Hank, who's overwhelmed by the stat. Moira pilots the X-Jet home with Hank later to Utopia. Hank watches the clouds pass once again. His AI asks what's eating at him. He tells her that Xavier's last words to him before he died was to help guide their people's future in a different way than Scott would. Not through action, but through insight and education, like how he used to.
Yeah.
He feels he's failing his former mentor. Moira mentions that how he would have loved to have met Xavier, and how it's a shame he can't change the past. This sparks an idea in McCoy's head, a special idea. He tells Moira to pull up everything she can regarding quantum entanglement, string theory, and particle physics. Since he has a long fight, McCoy has a lot of time to do some reading. He decides to brush up on some quantum physics. An academic journal titled, this academic article is titled, Saving the Rest of You, our first glimpse into time travel.
Wow.
And it was authored by Dr. Bruce Banner. It's brought up, and it catches Beast's eye. The next morning, when, Beast lands at Utopia, he, an original X-Man, calls a meeting with the higher council of the school. Cyclops, Jean, Iceman, and Angel. He tells his team his plan to save mutant kind. Using an acquired quantum tunnel prototype from Dr. Hank Pym, Hank will travel in time to find a cure for the legacy virus. The council thinks he wants to go to the past, but Hank wants to go to the future, 50 years to be exact. They ask him why he doesn't just go back and stop the legacy virus from being created, or save Charles and Magneto, or do something to make mutants not be persecuted for years and years and years. Hank says he's done the math, and the answer is in the future. He can't stay in the past, or he can't stay in the present and work on a cure because it'll take too long and more mutants will die. With time travel, he'll go to the future and be back in 5 seconds, excuse me. They ask what if there is no cure. He responds saying that there will be a cure because that is his role. He's the doctor. Mm-hmm. This is the hypothesis of Hank McCoy. Hank goes to the future, a civilization built upon mutant and human foundation. There's already being started, the human foundation and mutant foundation is being started thanks to his work with Senator Kelly. He finds the cure that will be eventually invented because he'll set in his mind on doing so. Brings it back, uses it in the present, studies it, creates it, and then, 50 years later, Hank comes to start the paradox all over again. Get it? Got it? We all good? We all caught up?
No, my brain's melted.
Good! With a few options, the X-Men agree to let Hank go to the future. The next day, in the school's danger room, Hank stands with equipment in front of an enhanced quantum tunnel. The OG X-Men see him off. Scott asks him, what if they need him? Like, what if something happens where they need Hank, and he couldn't get back immediately? He tells Scott that he pre-programmed Moira to act on his behalf in case he hasn't been back in the 5 seconds. There's no need to worry, Scott. The future depends on what we do in the present. And what we do now is good. Mm-hmm. Gandhi. Beast activates the time machine. Right there. Beast activates the time machine. He's pulled from the present. Gone. The X-Men stand in 2027. Waiting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He hasn't returned. What? Why hasn't he returned? Beast lands in 2077 in the exact same spot, in the exact same danger room. It's different. It's dark, it's cold, it's rusted, it's empty. The only noise heard is wind. Algae and vines drape the inside of the danger room. He wanders his way through an empty school, seeing burn marks, tattered furniture, broken windows, and doors. When outside, on the island of what was once a utopia, the air exhausts the lungs and tastes like smoke. His former home looks like a battle zone, the center of an apocalypse. In the gusty gray distance, lights appear. They move closer and closer, faster and faster. A giant airship lands in front of the mutant. A cybernetic life form exits the ship and approaches Hank. He sees what's happened to his home. The robot identifies him as Hank McCoy and immediately tries detaining him. Beast tries using the S6 disabler on the enemy, but it's defective against future technology. He fights it off a little bit, but is overcome by the machine. He's subdued and taken to the ship until the machine is attacked by an unknown assailant. An older man, who's mid-60s, using a photon cannon, attacks the robot, destroying it, freeing Beast. Hank notices the older man is war-torn and branded with an M on his eye. He goes by the name Bishop.
No way!
Bishop recognizes the X-Men from his past, 50 years ago when he was a child. He grew up with other mutants on Utopia until the end happened. Hank asks what happened, but Bishop only, he's like, what happened? But Bishop only remembers mutants in panic, the X-Men missing, chaos, and then war. Human and mutant war that ended with little survivors anywhere. Beast tells him that he came from the future to prevent chaos and to find a cure for the legacy virus. Bishop tells him it wasn't the legacy virus that caused the war. It was a mutant. The most powerful mutant in the world. At least that's how the legend went. Her voice filled with pain. Rage filled her eyes. Fire poured as rain. Like a phoenix did rise. Beast realizes that the legend is about Jean Grey. His teammate, his friend, his family. She did this to the world because he knows about her past from the Jean Grey film, about her relationship with the Hellfire Club and Sebastian Shaw, everything. He knows about Jean Grey and the potential that lives inside her. He needs to get back to the past to deal with this. He miscalculated. He was wrong. Unfortunately, the portable time machine he made was damaged in the battle. He's stuck. There must be some source of energy he can use to power the machine. Bishop, he refuses to help him any longer. He's seen mutants die his whole life. He's not lucky to be alive. He's cursed. He's alone. Plus, he has no way of getting him off the island. Hank thinks the robot must have registered his identity to a larger network. Reinforcements are bound to come. They wait for a ship, and then they hijack it. Bishop, still, he's not sold. Beast tells him they have a chance to get rid of the disease of a future forever. All he needs is a helping hand and information on the robot hive. Reluctantly, Bishop agrees to help. Later, another ship arrives, and the two mutants take it over. Hank hacks into the robot's head, finding the location of the robot's stronghold. They're based in London, the UK. The mutants start their journey. Beast, he asks for info from Bishop. The robots abduct mutant kind, keeping as many as they can in internment camps, doing God knows what to them on the inside. Many of the mutants in there are friends of Bishop's, the last surviving mutant colony. Bishop only managed to get away because his people sacrificed themselves to keep him from the mutant freedom stronghold. He knows of this one mutant who can help them build a time machine. He goes by the name Forge.
Yes.
And he can build anything he sets his mind to.
Yeah.
As they approach London, which is now a cybernetic empire, their ship is attacked by robots and shot down. The two mutants are captured and taken to the stronghold, a throne room built around a dilapidated London avenue. They meet their leader, a large robot with feminine features. She recognizes Beast and tells him that she's missed her father. For the leader of this last civilization on Earth is Moira.
So clever.
She tells thank you. She tells Hank that 50 years ago she did her best to protect mutant kind from extinction using the weapons built in the danger room, but Armageddon was unbeatable. She's stuck with her mission given by her creator, protecting mutants, even from themselves. Hank tells her that he has to go back in time to prevent all this from happening. She denies him, saying that McCoy is reckless and arrogant, and that he would only fail again.
It'd be your own daughters.
Bitch. He tries to escape, but is sent away by Moira to the internment camps. Beast and Bishop are dropped off in a separate part of London, where, to their surprise, mutants aren't suffering. The small amount of mutants gathered are prospering in a safe community. It's kept orderly by robot sentries, and surrounded by a closed-off wall, but they're safe. Beast is confused, but Bishop is slightly relieved. He sees friends of his alive, together. He embraces his community and reunites with his old comrade Forge, who's been keeping an eye on the mutants and been a partner with Moira. All to keep their people safe. Forge even helped with the building of Moira's robot army. Over the next few days, Beast lives amongst the community, seeing how they live. They don't worry about the conflict or disease. Bishop is with his people, relaxed and able to rest. But he can't help but notice the robots watching their every move. Beast is visited by Moira, who's treated like Mother frickin' Teresa by the mutants. She tells him that the legacy virus's impact on mutant kind was greatly over-exaggerated. The real threat was from an X-Man, from Jean Grey. Beast asks what made Jean turn on the world. Moira wasn't there when it happened, but she's heard stories. Some say that Jean's turn was part of some prophecy. Others say that she just lost her mind. No one saw it coming. No one. Beast once again pleads for Moira to allow him a chance to go back and fix the timeline. She still denies, asking her father to look at the community. Mutants finally have a chance without human threat or conflict of any kind because she didn't fail at her life goal, at the goal her father set for her. Beast thinks about it, contemplating whether the computer, his creation, may be right or not. They may have a chance, but you're not giving them a choice. Moira leaves him, gone. Later that night, Beast gets Bishop and Forge together, talking to them about how they could send him back. Forge isn't for the idea, and Bishop just isn't sure. They debate whether it's ethical to change the future, or for them, the present. On one hand, Hank could go back and save the Earth, but in doing so, screw the mutant community. On the other hand, they could keep mutant kind safe and secure in this future in this way. Forge leaves, not wanting to hear anymore. Beast tells Bishop that the world is much bigger than the walls that surround them. He realizes this truth. Bishop goes to Forge, saying that freedom isn't easy. It's just not this easy. It can't be. They have a chance to get it the right way. With major convincing, Forge joins the two. The next morning, Moira comes back to the colony, but sees no Beast, Forge, or Bishop. An explosion at the far end of the Empire happens, and Moira rushes over. She flies. I'm out! At the site, she finds Bishop and Forge attacking her robot soldiers. She doesn't see Hank, realizing that it's a diversion, and that that Hank is headed to the main energy source to power a frickin' time machine. She's about to head over to his location, but is stopped by the hacked robots, because Forge tells them, because he worked on the robots, he damn well knows how to control them. Forge tells them to keep her busy while they head to Beast. Beast arrives at the energy plant, met up by Bishop and Forge. Forge gives him an updated time portable machine. All it needs is a bar of energy from the plant. Before he gets it, the three are attacked by Moira. Beast tries to reach out to her as a father, finally. She denies, saying that he's not her daughter anymore, but what she had to become to survive. She's now Danger. The three mutants fight Danger off for a bit, but get the upper hand. They think they've won, but Bishop is hurt fatally by the robot. Beast points out that this is exactly why he has to go back. No more death, no more suffering. When he goes home, everybody lives. Danger sees what she's done, instantly regretting it. She gives up, telling her father that she's sorry she failed him. He tells her that he's the one who failed her, but it's not too late. Beast comforts the dying Bishop, saying that he'll find him and take care of him. Hank grabs the energy cell, powering up his time machine. Forge, tells him that because of the lack of equipment, he couldn't set a date count on it. He'll go to the past, but it will be random. Beast says goodbye and activates the device. He disappears. Left in the future, Moira and Forge carry Bishop back to the mutant community. They all comfort the dying mutant. All around them, the ground shakes, the sky fades. Time is being rewritten in front of them. All they can do is stay close together in the end and hope for something better. Fade out. Post-credit scene. 2 of them. In New York City, on a bright and populated day. The wind on the streets changes momentarily as a bright flash happens and Beast appears. He's back in time, but when? He asks a random New Yorker what year it is. He's told 2029, 2 years after he left. Hank is stunned, but needs to focus. His first instinct is to go to Utopia and warn his friends about Jean. But he reconsiders. He calls a cab and asks to be dropped off upstate. They drive and they arrive at their destination. The cabbie remarks, "I didn't know you was with them." Beast replies, "Neither do they." Hank approaches a remodeled New Avengers facility.
Whoa.
Beast will return.
Yes!
Number 2. In a dark hallway, Scott Summers walks escorted by a guard and accompanied by Kitty Pryde. They enter an isolated chamber in front of a holding cell. Imprisoned is Emma Frost, the White Queen. Emma Frost devilishly flirts with Scott and taunts her former adversary, Kitty. Scott gets down to business, wanting to know everything. What is this prophecy from the Hellfire Club? What has it got to do with Jean Grey? All she does is reply with a rhyme. Her voice filled with pain. Rage filled her eyes. Fire poured as rain. Like a phoenix did rise.
Damn.
That's Beast.
Damn, dude. That was Beast mode is what it
That was Beast mode.
That wasn't Beast. That was Beast mode. I think this is definitely my favorite phase. For sure, man. I mean, the movie... It reminded me so much of Days of Future Past. And I love the way that you incorporated quantum physics. Not only are we... Well, we don't go to the past. We go to the future of the MCU. And that's something we haven't seen before. We haven't seen the actual future of what it looks like.
Yeah, and can I just say... Sorry to interrupt, but
no, it's okay.
I wrote this phase out. I planned it out. I've been writing this thing for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And this was definitely set before... or written before we saw Endgame,
Mm-hmm.
where they did establish their rules of time travel. In my opinion, the rules of time travel are the rules. It doesn't exist, but the rules of time travel are much more flux than just that. Like what I look at Endgame, the way Hulk explains it, I look at that as a theory, a theory that worked. And here, it's another theory that worked. You know, look at it like a math problem. Mm-hmm. There are so many different ways to get to the same answer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what time travel is here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It is a theory from Banner. You know, I don't think he's completely seen the vast majority of ways that the quantum realm can work.
Yes.
So I loved it. I loved the idea of expressing loneliness through this story. I thought it was really interesting to see it in the future and how Bishop feels alone. And that's exactly what I want to see expressed with the mutants. There's millions of them, yet every single one of them feel alone in their own way. So that was a really strong theme that I noticed in this. And also the incorporation of danger, the evolution of AI, and how it goes on self-defense mode even in the sites of Armageddon. So
yes, this was definitely a love letter to my favorite X-Men, Beast, and my favorite X-Men run, Astonishing X-Men. I think this is a story about time travel when it comes to someone who's going through time, who's, emotional, irrational, and filled with responsibility.
Yeah, and also thinking about the future when you're making decisions in the present. What's the best way to save the future? It's to start making productive choices now.
Yes.
Now, and I love having that in hindsight. I think it's vital for all of us to understand our positions in history and making sure that the next generation is going to be okay.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to ask you a question now that don't answer now. You're going to answer it after the next one.
Okay.
The last one. Was Beast right in leaving 2027 so suddenly? That's the question.
Let me ask you a question before I answer that. When it comes to the quantum realm,
yes,
if he leaves that time period, does it have a second chance, or is that how that future went?
If he leaves the present, like 2027.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2027 is the present. Him
yes,
going to the future.
Him going
Was
to the
it right for
future.
him to leave?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the question.
Okay.
So, okay, Angel. I think it's time for the big one. The X-Men film. Now, I wanted to give you a little tease as to what it was.
Yeah.
I sent you the title.
You did.
So tell everyone what the title of the X-Men film is.
The title is X-Men Schism.
Oh, shit.
Try spelling that.
I won't. Yeah.
Tell me about it, man.
Well,
I'm super intrigued by it.
That's a good title, I think. It's a title from the comic books of X-Men Schism. It's a very famous one, modern one. But it's a temporary title. I thought of that as something to like, what could the tone be of this film? Mm-hmm. I thought of a better title. X-Men versus Avengers.
No!
It's time for the conclusion. So this is the third X-Men film. But just to set everything up, because a lot of stuff has happened since I've written this. Comic-Con just happened. Spider-Man came out. Endgame came out.
Wild.
So there was a lot to take in consideration here.
Wild stuff.
So this is this would act as the third X-Men film. At this point, there would be a fifth Avengers film to wrap up the Secret Invasion stuff that was teased at the end of Far From Home. And this could act as a sixth Avengers film as well as a third X-Men film. This is the end of the X-Men in the MCU, built up from the very beginning. And I'm very curious what you're going to think. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm not. All right. X-Men versus Avengers. All right. Our story begins 2 months after the events of X-Men Legacy in 2027, with Scott Summers, Cyclops, sitting unnervingly, tapping his foot, listening to some music to calm himself. He sits in the passenger area of the X-Jet, looking at his wedding ring. He looks over at Storm, who's piloting the plane, and Logan Wolverine for reassurance. Logan asks Scott, if he's ready for what they're headed into. Scott tells him that he's never been ready for this. The jet lands in Vienna, Austria. The three X-Men are taken to the Vienna International Center, where the United Nations, from Civil War, have called for a special hearing. They're escorted into the building, meeting with Senator Robert Kelly, who greets them and treats them as heroes. Storm is approached by King T'Challa and his bodyguard Okoye. They reunite, excited, because they met up in Storm, obviously. The King asks her what the X-Men have come to announce. Her answer, a chance at peace. Senator Kelly escorts Cyclops and Wolverine to the main speaking hall, where they're introduced to different delegates, including Secretary of State Thaddeus Ross. He and Wolverine have a moment to catch up, where Ross says he would have written a letter of recommendation for his new job as a PE teacher. Logan asks in response if he's caught Dr. Banner yet, or if he still sucks at his job. The mutants leave the secretary behind, who's like, screw you guys. Senator Kelly leaves the two near the stage that representatives from all over the world surround. He goes on addressing the UN on behalf of mutant kind. Wolverine asks Cyclops if he's ready for what he's about to do, once again, because he's double-checking. Scott says that when they first met, he never thought that someone like Logan would care about anyone else or anything else. But over the time that they've spent together, he realized that they're not too different from each other. The late Xavier saw that and took them both in for the same reasons. Because they're not monsters. They're special. Logan tells him to shut the hell up and make his dumb speech. Cyclops goes up on stage in front of the world. He announces the establishment of Utopia, formerly Genosha, a new country, inviting mutants from all over the world to find safe haven. The X-Men will remain primarily on the island to protect the country, acting as a quote-unquote army, and act outside of the country only in cases that concern mutant kind. Many country heads and diplomats bring up their issues. There are a lot of things to consider here. You're raising an army to take over humanity. Who's in charge? An island filled with mutant criminals that gives amnesty to other criminals? You're another Magneto, Cyclops is asked where their mutant-human liaison is. And he says that Hank McCoy is unavailable at the moment. Because, he just left for the future, and he hasn't come back since. But they maintain a healthy relationship with Senator Kelly. Mm-hmm. Under the heat, Scott is asked how he expects the nations of the world to be 100% assured that what he's doing is in the world's favor. How can they trust mutants? The question is answered by a voice offstage. In flies Carol Danvers herself, Captain Marvel, current leader of the New Avengers.
Team Cap.
She addresses the UN, saying that she understands what it's like to be victimized by an oppressive system. She's referring to the Kree, obviously. Mm-hmm. And the mutant kind deserve the same freedoms offered to the other countries of the world. Utopia is just as much in on this world as we are. The New Avengers support the X-Men, recognizing their rights as cousins of the human race. King T'Challa stands up in front of the UN as well, offering Wakanda support to Utopia. More countries stand, one at a time. The world is rarely this united. Cyclops and Captain Marvel shake each other's hands, pictures are taken, the room fills with applause. And Secretary Ross sits there, unapproving and in denial, watching the room turn. Later, delegates walk around the center, ambassadors are interviewed, and Scott watches it all happen from the balcony of a higher floor. He's approached by Carol, who properly introduces herself. Scott thanks her for the help. She tells him it's the least that she could do. Ever since Thanos' invasion from Endgame, the New Avengers became pretty tight-knit with the U.S. government. It's not the Sokovia Accords, but there's a strong association that needs to be maintained to keep the people and establishments' trust. This is why the New Avengers could not help with the battle at Xavier's school with Mr. Sinister and X-Men Legacy. Captain Marvel hopes that from here on, they can move past politics and remember that people's lives are being dealt with. Cyclops agrees, hoping he's the right guy to help build a better world, a better family. Carol wishes him luck and flies off. Cyclops is left there until he's asked by Storm and Wolverine if he's ready to go home. 2 years later, it's 2029 on the coasts of Somalia, where pirates take hold of enslaved mutants, selling them to interested parties. Before the purchase can be made, the criminals are interrupted by a rescue team of X-Men in training. This team is led by Wolverine and Storm, and the trainees include Rogue, Gambit, and Jubilee. Woo-hoo! An epic battle occurs where the senior members of the X-Men teach the trainees how to hero correctly. After a clumsy first mission, they free the mutants and wait for the authorities to come pick up the pirates. Wakandan soldiers come to pick up the pirates, obviously. One of them gives a special Wakandan rose to Storm, directly from King T'Challa. She blushes and tells Wolverine, who's smirking at her, to shut the hell up. The X-Men take in the now free mutants. They fly the X-Jet to their home. Utopia. The island is filled with mutant civilization. Farms, construction of colonies, the school, everything that mutants could ask for. Wolverine and Storm take the rescued mutants to Iceman and Angel for orientation and to be settled in. They dismiss the trainees, giving them a C-. Jubilee freaks out to Rogue and Gambit, calling herself a real X-Man. Well, they just act casual. They're like, yeah, okay, we did it again. Great. Wolverine and Storm head to this headmaster room, where Scott teaches a brief modern mutant history course on the difference in ideology between Charles Xavier and Eric Lencher. The class is dismissed, and the two mutants give Scott a rundown on the mission. They finally taken care of mutant trafficking on the east coast of Africa. There are more cases of mutant exploitive crime coming out of the east coast of the U.S. Wolverine and Storm are instructed by Scott to take the trainee team back out to intercept the deal tomorrow. Wolverine and Storm, I keep on saying store. Wolverine and Storm, just a giant store. Wolverine and Storm leave Scott, who is immediately accompanied by his wife, Jean Grey, who is 8 months pregnant, and she's due very soon.
Oh.
She sees Scott dealing with the weight of a leader, but better than he might have a couple years ago. Scott asks how Jean feels, and she's under stress as well, and feels a lot of unusual pain. It might be the pregnancy. It's probably the pregnancy, right? The two are doing pretty well, all things considered. Jean takes Scott's hand to her stomach and uses her telepathic power to be one with their child. All three of them are together. It's magical, and the two feel a moment of stability.
Oh, wow.
Over in an upstate New York, at a remodeled new Avengers facility, Captain Marvel is escaping meetings with human delegates, asking for her to approve humanitarian missions with verified Avengers. She tries to take a deep breath, for she's admittedly overwhelmed. Carol is chased down by Secretary Ross, who approaches her in regards to mutant affairs on the east coast of the country. Danvers tells him that she's very aware about his bias towards mutant kind, and will take care of the crisis with the Department of Human Mutant Discourse. Ross tells her not to forget that she is in service of the American people and their interests. And he says shit like, "You're too soft on them. Soon enough, a mutant will come crashing through the front door of this place." An Avenger secretary interrupts the two, informing the captain that she is an unexpected visitor, a mutant who can't wait. Carol and Ross meet with Dr. Hank McCoy, famously known as Beast. He tells the two his story of time travel. He just got back from 50 years from now, going to the future, seeing an apocalypse that crippled mutant and humankind alike, and now he's come back to stop it from happening. Carol asks Beast why he's come to them and not the X-Men, his family. He tells her that if he'd gone to Scott Summers, he couldn't be objective, because the mutant that causes Armageddon is his wife, Jean Grey.
Jesus.
After hearing this, Ross tells Danvers to bring her team together. The two stand off against each other, but Carol realizes that he is right. She calls for the new Avengers, but before anything, she and Beast are going to go visit someone. At Utopia, Jubilee visits Kitty Pryde, who's wrapping up her class on engineering. Kitty asks how the mission went, and Jubilee can't contain her excitement. She can't hear every detail of Jubilee's experience right now because Kitty has to get ready for a date with Colossus later that night. Things are going well between them, both of them. They relate heavily since they've both been controlled by other mutants and understand the experience. Both of them can control their relationship together. They're a unit, They find stability and everything. After all Kitty's been through, it's nice to be involved with someone by choice. Peter Rasputin, Colossus, and Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, are occupied in the Danger Room, demonstrating the purpose and value of training to a class of young mutants, led by Mystique. And the students include James Proudstar, some of the Morlocks, and other mutants. They wrap up the demo, dismissing the class. Colossus mentions to Nightcrawler how they're serving a new community, and he's happy about it. They're helping a whole society, not unlike their time in Munich, Germany, years ago. Nightcrawler asks how long they will play superheroes, for he doesn't plan on that being the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. After they've helped Utopia and mutant kind become stable, he hopes to go back to Munich, back to the church, his home. And what of Colossus's future? Well, it's simple. He's got a date tonight with Kitty. She's his future, The friends smile and leave the danger room, thanking the AI in charge, Moira, for the help. She thanks them in return.
I don't trust Moira's.
The two mutants catch up with Mystique in her class. She tells them that mutants are finally on their way to standing up for themselves. Mystique parts with the class when they run into Rogue. Mystique talks to her surrogate daughter, asking how she felt on the mission. Rogue tells her that she worries sometimes about the X-Men. She doesn't want Utopia to become like the Hellfire Club. She just doesn't want it to be the same thing rebranded. Mystique tells her that that's why she's there. Her and Jean are there to keep the people honest. Over at a small isolated living area, Gambit approaches the patio of a hut with an ice chest and a couple beers. He greets Alex Summers, Havoc, brother of Cyclops. He hands Alex a beer and joins him at the end of the day. He asks Summers why he doesn't come on the trainee missions. It might help clean his reputation as a former criminal. Alex asks him, Alex tells him it wouldn't be deserved. He hasn't earned that, and asks why Gambit doesn't. Remy tells him that he feels like he's wasted enough time, feeling guilty for what he did as the bad guy, and tries to focus on what he'll do as the hero. The two clink beers, enjoying the end of the day. In New York, Greenwich Village, Captain Marvel and Beast stand before Doctor Strange in his Sanctum Sanctorum. He floats before the two, using the real Eye of Agamotto to look through time. He sees millions upon millions of futures, verifying Hank's story. It's true. All of it. Captain Marvel asks him what happens next, but the Doctor refuses to give an answer. She settles for his verification and tells him they're assembling the new Avengers to come up with a plan. He tells her that he's not going. For the best case scenario to happen, he cannot be involved. Beast asks what the best case scenario means in this context. Strange remains silent. Captain Marvel and Beast leave the sanctum. Strange's assistant Wong asks what he saw. His reply? The world will change. There's no stopping that. This mutant they fear. Her destiny will come at a great cost. At the compound, the team of New Avengers are reassembled. And this team, I kept it to basics, characters that we are familiar with. I know they just announced like a bunch of new characters are coming out, but this is the team that we have. Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Sam Wilson, Captain America the Falcon now, Spider-Man Peter Parker, Winter Soldier, War Machine, Wanda Maximoff, the Vision, who is a reconstructed model, whether that be through whatever means. The Vision is coming back.
Yeah, probably through Shuri.
Yeah. Ant-Man, Wasp, and now Beast. Secretary Ross is present. All the heroes are brought up to speed on the situation. A debate starts regarding the steps the new Avengers will take. Ross can have a battle plan drawn up within the hour. Peter is confused. Peter Parker's like, he's asking why this meeting sounds like they're getting ready to declare war. Remember the last time the Avengers fought in a war? Anyone here actually remember what war entails? Wanda, still holding a grudge from her encounter with Rogue, says that striking first may give them a chance to prevent Armageddon. Scott Lang, he interrupts, saying that this isn't an alien army or a robot takeover. These are people they're talking about. Children are on that island. Rhodey responds, saying that they can't just sit around. He hates to admit it, but Ross does have a point. A contingency has to at least be discussed. Beast butts in. He didn't come back to the present with the hope of starting a war, but to save the world. Ross tells him that humanity needs soldiers against threats, not pacifists. T'Challa comes in to McCoy's defense, saying that that is the problem. Wakanda is one of mutant kind's biggest proponents. Does he really expect them to start a war based on a future that could be changed through diplomacy? The Vision agrees with the King, saying that to prevent violence with violence is fruitless. Bucky chimes in, saying that he's there to help people, not fight any more wars. The Wasp asks, since when did they start taking orders from the government? Sounds more like a business than a relationship, than a partnership. The room starts to fill up with this debate. Carol interrupts the bickering. She notices Sam Wilson in the corner. Why hasn't Captain America entered his 2 cents? He tells them all that the last time the Avengers were this put in this dilemma, they broke up. He sees the team starting to fracture, and that'll only lead to failure. He says that the best plan is to follow Carol's lead. She's a leader for a reason. Whatever decision they make, they do it together behind her. Carol decides they're going to act diplomatically, but due to the circumstances, they're going to be battle ready. Her, Hank, and T'Challa are going to reach out to Scott Summers after the X-Team take care of their business on the East Coast. The new Avengers are dismissed. Ross tells Carol that this won't go the way that she thinks, that mutants will turn on her. Carol feels the pressure. Danvers thanks Sam for his backup. He tells her that's probably what Steve would do. Like her, he feels the weight of the world on his shoulders and is doing the best that he can. Caps stick together. Outside of the meeting room, Wanda stands with the Vision. Lately, the witch's anger has built since her revelation of being a mutant. She sees it as some sort of affliction, another reason for people to be scared of her. The Vision tells her that what's made her different is what's helped the world survive and given life meaning, especially for him. They may not agree on this, but the best thing they can do for each other is go with the team and not escalate things. She agrees and asks to be left alone for a while. Alone, Wanda is approached by Secretary Ross, who tells her that her info has let him know the specifics of the X-Men's East Coast mission. Apparently her old friends, Rogue and Gambit, are going to be there. He even knows specific times. He tells her the only way to keep loved ones safe is to make the first move. Scared and unsure of herself, Wanda ponders his words. The next day at Utopia, Cyclops sees the X-trainees off on their mission. He tells Wolverine and Storm that they're doing good work with them. After this, the trainees will be one step closer to being the next generation. The team leaves to save the day. The X-team lands in Atlantic City, New Jersey. At a harbor, they take down some mercenaries shipping off illegal Essex mutant weaponry. They enter a fight. The team gets scattered. Wolverine stays with Jubilee. Storm fights alongside Gambit, and Rogue is separated on her own. She fights off some of the soldiers, but is then attacked by an unknown force. In flies Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, claiming to be there to protect the world, but is really back for revenge. They fight. At Utopia, Jean, who's trying to rest, senses the battle between Scarlet Witch and Rogue. Something is wrong, and she tells Scott. Rogue and Wanda fight amongst the chaos. The other X-Men finish off the militia and see the Avenger attacking one of their own. It's now Wanda versus Rogue, Wolverine, Storm, Gambit, and Jubilee.
Epic.
It's a close fight. Rogue asks why she's doing this. She tells them that their kind are the only thing they're just gonna end up being another Thanos. Mm-hmm. If the real heroes don't step in, then Jean will destroy everything with the Phoenix Force. At home, Jean hears this psychically. She's terrified. She goes through another contraction, just instinctively. It just happens because she's so freaked out. The fight comes down to Rogue and Wanda. Before the two land their finishing blows, they're surrounded by Quinjets, Army helicopters, and Avengers. And these Avengers are Captain Marvel, War Machine, and the Vision. And that's overkill, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Later that night,
Rest in peace.
the X-Team and Wanda are held separately at the compound. Cyclops arrives, joined by Kitty Pryde, in case they actually do need to phase and grab their people out of the place. He demands to talk with Carol, who invites him in. He asks why his people were attacked while operating under lawful means. Carol tells him that Wanda was working under misinformation, only meaning to help the situation. Scott realizes that there's something she's not telling him. She appeases him and takes him to a conference room where Beast is. Scott is surprised to see him and asks what happened to him and how long he's been back in the present. It's been 2 years. What happened in the future? Why didn't he come home? Hank tells Scott what he saw. 50 years tomorrow, world is devastated. On the brink, and all because of Jean Grey and the Phoenix. Scott tells the two that Jean conquered the Phoenix Force within her years ago. The Hellfire Club, the people who attempted to bring it out from her, are long gone. Kitty Pryde can verify that claim, having dealings with them. Beast tells him that the world was devastated. Songs and legends were made because of what Jean did. Hank tells Scott that it's a mistake to pretend it's not possible for Jean to do this. Scott tells him that the mistake was not coming to him straight in the first place. Carol asks Scott to bring Jean to the compound so they can run some tests and keep an eye on her. To Scott, that sounds like internment and declines. He tells her that Jean isn't under arrest and neither are his people. Scott starts to leave. Carol tells him that sooner or later, they won't be asking for Jean. Next time they're taking her. He responds, and next time, I'll be suited up. Scott leaves with Kitty and the rest of the X-team. Storm sees T'Challa while they're headed out. They share a worried look towards each other. In the air, the X-team discuss what their next move should be. Some want to border up Utopia. Others want to connect with other countries in the event of an attack by the Avengers and the U.S. government. Scott wants to find out as much as he can about the Phoenix Force. Kitty mentions that she might be able to help and tells him to fly them to Detroit. He agrees, and they head over. At a secure mutant holding center in Detroit, Cyclops and Kitty meet with Detective Jamie Madrox, who leads them through corridors passing cell after cell. They meet with one of the most dangerous prisoners cataloged, Emma Frost, the White Queen, latest leader of the disabled Hellfire Club. The Queen devilishly flirts with Scott and taunts her former adversary, Kitty. Scott gets down to business, wanting to know everything. What is this prophecy from the Hellfire Club? And what has it got to do with Jean Grey? All Frost does is reply with a rhyme. Her voice is filled with pain. Rage filled her eyes. Fire poured like rain. Like a phoenix did rise. Scott doesn't care for poetry. He asks Emma, why doesn't she just leave? She's powerful enough to convince anyone on the planet to let her go. Emma tells him that her incarceration deep underground is going to be the safest place on the planet very soon. She'll survive the coming conflict. Plus, she'll know that the prophecy is true. Win-win for her. The conflict? From who? From Jean? This Phoenix? No. From the humans. Emma gets to sit back and watch the world burn because they didn't believe in hellfire. Now they're going to. All her mutant brothers and sisters can do is wait for the war. Scott and Kitty leave, but before they go, Emma tells Cyclops to look her up if things don't work out with his wife. At Utopia, late at night, Cyclops arrives met by Jean. They say nothing. They just hug. The other X-members separate when leaving the X-Jet. Kitty reunites with Colossus. Wolverine and Gambit go drink some beers. Jubilee joins Rogue and Gambit for a walk. Storm flies herself up to the clouds, wanting to clear her head. At the compound, Captain Marvel looks into the distance, unsure of herself. She can feel her role, her power, and position gnawing at her. James Rhodes, War Machine, comes up to her, seeing how she is. He tells her he knows how it feels to be under pressure by authorities. But if nothing is done now, something worse will be done later. She asks him what made him think that. His answer, Tony Stark. His best friend years ago had a vision about destruction, and the Avengers did nothing but fail. For his legacy, they can't just sit back and wait for death this time. She tells him, you're right. You're absolutely right. Captain Marvel and War Machine approach the gathered Avengers. She tells them they're going to Utopia to ask one last time for cooperation, and if they don't get it, they'll have no other choice than to take Jean Grey by any means necessary. An unknown voice tells her that isn't such a good idea. The voice? Well, it's none other than Dr. Bruce Banner himself, aka the Professor Hulk.
Hell yeah.
And he has a robotic arm brace so he can, he can work his shit. Hulk is there to act as the voice of reason. The Avengers turning into another soulless, cold faction of the U.S. military is exactly why he didn't stay. Look at where acting irrationally got Wanda. She's in confinement now. How did she even get the information on the X-Men's mission? Why is this team not well knit? If they attack, who's going to be held accountable if the world goes to hell? Hank McCoy steps in, telling Banner that he read his article about time travel, and it was by his means that he saw the future where they did nothing. He knows just as well as he that the future won't solve itself. Banner tells him that he used time travel to fix what was already done, not what wasn't. And just because he came back doesn't mean the future will be any different. To Beast, the present and the future here that he saw are one and the same. And he didn't come back to give up. Carol asks Banner, if he could, would he have saved Black Widow years ago? Because that's what they're doing. Carol tells her team why they are going to Utopia. She looks at Ant-Man and the Wasp, saying they're saving families. she tells T'Challa they're saving loved ones. To Spider-Man, she says they're taking responsibility. To the Vision, she says they're making up for past wrongs. To Falcon, Winter Soldier, and War Machine, she says they're maintaining legacy. To Beast, they're saving tomorrow. To the Hulk, they're doing their best. Carol admits she doesn't like the hand she's been given. This is an unfavorable part of the job, but they're still going to do their job. It's their job as heroes to step up. In 2 days, they're headed for Utopia. Throughout the whole meeting, Peter Parker has sit still, trying to compose himself, but he's still a child. He's the youngest one there. And once he knows their mission, he leaves the room in panic. Outside of the compound, Peter sits, looking at New York City in the distance. He's met by Carol. She tells him that the fear he's feeling, she feels that every day while leading the team. Peter says that he's learned over the years that saving the world gives him major stress, because since the battle with Thanos, he's hoped never to go to war again. That day he lost so much. All he has is his aunt, MJ, his friends. If we're going to war again, how do we know it's to save the world? What if we're wrong? Carol tells him that because no matter what, they're heroes. Heroes save the day, not end it. Peter is comforted. The morning after, a council is met at Utopia. Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, Storm, Iceman, Angel, Colossus, Nightcrawler. Next move for mutant kind is discussed. Their communications with human governments are temporarily closed, and their people are scared across the island. And the island population is like 20,000. The idea of moving their people somewhere else is brought up, seeking asylum for those not of government interest. Cyclops responds bluntly, "No. They're not taking away my pregnant wife for something she hasn't done." Mutants have been running for years and years, and frankly, Scott is tired of it. This world is just as much theirs as it is theirs. There's no reason they can't stand up for it. Any mutants who want to leave and find shelter are more than welcome to do so, but the fact remains, the Avengers are going to come for Jean Grey, and the X-Men are going to stop them. Scott gives his team different jobs. Himself, Storm, and Iceman are going to stand on the front lines of the island as the mutants are escorted by Mystique safely to different panic and danger rooms scattered throughout the school. Nightcrawler, Rogue, and Colossus will defend the entryway to the school and the tunnels themselves. Gambit, Jubilee, and Angel will defend the school itself, not letting anything get in or out. Wolverine and Kitty will defend Jean by her side, along with the mutants housed in the danger rooms. Their people get ready. Loved ones make their last amends in case they can't later. Colossus and Kitty embrace each other. Rogue and Gambit kiss. Angel and Iceman hold on to each other for as long as they can. Storm comforts Jubilee, Nightcrawler prays. Mystique comforts her surrogate daughters Jean and Rogue. Scott comes to Logan saying that they're a good team, but they're going to need help against the Avengers. They're still the Avengers, They need some help. Wolverine tells him that he might know a guy, but he won't be cheap. Cyclops tells him that to put it on his tab. Logan chuckles. Jean tells Scott that they're running out of time. The Avengers are coming tomorrow. Maybe she should give herself up. Maybe their people shouldn't be put at risk. She's not worth the bloodshed. Scott tells her that the moment he gives up on family is the moment this future becomes real. Their child will not grow up in internment. Jean corrects him. Their little girl won't grow up in internment. The two hug each other, both holding as tight as they can, like they'll never have a chance to do it again. They name their daughter Hope, the one thing that will get them through tomorrow. Before the day ends, Scott goes to his brother Alex, sitting next to him on his porch. He asks himself if he wants to be an X-Man. Alex is still filled with guilt, not sure if he deserves to help his brother. Scott lends his hand, saying he needs his help to protect Jean. It's never too late to come back to family. Alex is convinced, taking his brother's hand, ready to step up. On the island, the next day, it's dawn. The X-Men are at their posts. They stand still, waiting for the world to change. A large shape moves closer to them from the distant sky. It's a helicarrier, pointing their spotlights throughout the island, landing on Cyclops, Storm, and Iceman, who stand at the edge of the beach. At the shores, A Quinjet flies down from the helicarrier to the shores in front of the mutants. Out comes Captain Marvel, Black Panther joined by Okoye, and War Machine. Carol tells Scott that this is his last chance to cooperate willingly. Scott tells her that this is her last chance to get the hell off his island. Carol asks him if all the civilians are out of harm's way, and they are. They're safe. And Scott's going to keep them that way no matter what. Black Panther asks Storm to come with him. He doesn't want to fight a fellow Wakandan. She tells him, I'm sorry, but today I'm not Wakandan. I'm a mutant.
Oh my god, let them fight.
Cyclops says if they don't have anything else to talk about, they might as well get down to business.
Oh!
The heroes stand face to face, still. All that can be heard is the shore and mist from the ocean. Cyclops and Carol stare each other down, waiting for the first move. They shoot off lasers at the same time, blasting each other about 10 feet back. War Machine attacks Iceman, who holds him off, but hands him over to Storm. Bobby takes, and he goes to Black Panther and Okoye, launching an entire ice wall at them. War Machine manages to disorient Storm for a second, and he calls for the Avengers. He tells the team to move into their positions. Multiple Quinjets filled with Avengers and Black Ops Warmonger soldiers fall in. Warmongers are basically the, War Machine's crew, you know? Bobby takes to the beach, freezing a big chunk of ocean and launching glaciers at the Quinjets. He forms a giant ice wall, bringing down some of the jets. He's knocked out by Black Panther. One jet flies away from the battle, piloted by Beast and Winter Soldier. They head for a separate part of the island that's not being attentioned to. At the shore, Carol and Scott blasted each other, both somewhat holding back. Black Panther and Okoye run past them, deeper into the island for the school. Storm flies after the two. Multiple Quinjets come in, centering on the villages of Utopia. Falcon Cap comes out with Spider-Man and Professor Hulk. They go up against Colossus, Rogue, and Nightcrawler, defending the school outside. Falcon sends Spidey after Nightcrawler. Hulk takes on Colossus, and Cap will take on Rogue. The three Avengers fight the three X-Men. Man. Spider-Man has trouble catching the teleporting Nightcrawler, but Kurt has trouble landing a blow on the Wallcrawler due to his Peter Tingle. Falcon Cap throws his shield at Rogue, who dodges it. She and him go hand to hand, but Falcon is wise to her power. Before Hulk and Colossus go at it, Banner tells Peter that he's a big fan of his art. Colossus responds, thanking the Doctor, and always imagined what this matchup would be like. They brawl with each other. Beast and Winter Soldier land the Quinjet at an enclosed part of the island, where they enter a secret passageway to the school and the danger room. They go through the tunnel, hearing the action outside muffled and distant. They make it in, seeing students gathered. Jean is with them, but they're protected by Wolverine, Kitty, and Havoc. Woo! Logan tells Hank that he knew he'd come down this way. It's why Wolverine's there. Beast tells Logan, well, that's why he brought the Winter Soldier. Wolverine and Havoc charge Beast and Bucky, having an enclosed, wild fight. Wolverine remarks that he recognizes Bucky vaguely, and the Winter Soldier responds, I don't hang out at truck stops, kid. Beast formally introduces himself to Havoc, saying that his brother spoke only the best of him. Alex says that he's mentioned that Beast was an obsessive, self-righteous asshat. The fight continues. Carol gets up and is radioed by the Vision, who is still on the helicarrier in the distance, watching the battle with Wanda, who's there. He asks her if they both are needed. She says no, and that they are only there to be brought in as a worst-case scenario. Ant-Man and the Wasp make their way into the school by shrinking. They encounter Gambit, Jubilee, and Angel. The two realize they have to get them out of the school, into the open, so they can get through. The two shrink down and sting the X-Men, taunting them. Wasp gets to Jubilee so much, she's chased out by the mutant into the open area. Ant-Man punches Angel and Gambit so much, they start to tear up the hallways of the school. Ant-Man takes the moment to go 20 feet in the hallway and punches the two mutants out of the school. He shrinks back down and makes his way to the danger room. On the island, Black Panther and Okoye are attacked by Storm. The two work together to fight off the mutant, but they're sucked up by her wind tunnels. T'Challa begs her to stop this. If she doesn't, he can't help her once they get Jean. She won't have amnesty after this fight's over. She tells them they're not leaving with her friend. She throws them down and knocks the Wakandans out. She flies to the front of the school where the battle commences. Captain Marvel is fighting off Cyclops' attacks, Cyclops is not holding back right now. He's like, eat it, bitch. And so she underestimated his conviction. He does his best at hand-to-hand, but she overpowers him. Before she can knock him out, Iceman gets up and blasts her with his freezing power. Cyclops helps him and uses his optic blasts. She blasts back at the two, knocking them back. She flies up in the sky and sees the battle in the distance. She calls for more Quinjets to surround the school, establishing a perimeter. The Quinjets approach, but are intercepted by Storm and her lightning. War Machine on the ground sees this. Before going after her, he commands his warmongers to make their way into the school. Rhodey flies after Storm, and they fight. The warmongers fight with Gambit and Angel on the steps of the school. Nightcrawler and Gambit trade positions. Same with Angel and Rogue. It's now Kurt and Rogue versus soldiers, Gambit versus Spider-Man, Angel versus Falcon Cap.
Hey, that's me.
No, it's not you. The mutants and Avengers fight all over the area.
Oh my god.
Ant-Man makes it into the danger room, where he sees Beast and Bucky fight Wolverine and Havoc, but also Kitty lead Jean and the other mutants out to safety throughout another hallway. He sees the children's faces, scared. He thinks about his daughter, Cassie. He has an opportunity to catch them, but he lets them go. Wasp radios him, asking for help. He turns around, heading into the fight where everything's happening. Winter Soldier radios Captain Marvel, telling her that Jean is getting away. Beast tells her that they're headed to the southern air hangar. Captain Marvel heads over to the southern part of the island. Wolverine, while fighting off Bucky, radios Scott, telling her that Jean's in danger. Scott contacts Angel, telling him to fly them both to Jean. Angel picks up Scott up, and they head over to the southern air hangar. At the hangar, Kitty, Jean, and the other mutants are encountered by Carol. The mutant students surround Jean and Kitty, protecting them like they've had enough. Some even use their powers against Carol, like they're attacking her. Jean tells them all to stop. She approaches Carol, asking to stop the attack if she goes with her. Carol tells her that this was never meant to be an attack. They want to protect the world. Jean goes through another contraction, but it's bigger, it's louder. She's going through so much pain, it's like she can't control something. And Kitty yells at Carol, how could she be a weapon of mass destruction when she's going through all of this? Carol is blasted away from Jean by Cyclops. He yells at Carol, get the hell away from my wife. Angel goes to the mutants, helping them get away from the battle. Kitty leads Jean to the X-Jet. Carol gets back up, shooting at Scott. He's hit a bit, but he's had enough. The mutants are clear. Jean and Kitty start to fly off in the X-Jet. Carol goes to the plane, but is stopped by Scott, who pulls off his visor, unleashing the holy hell of optic blasts from his eyes. Enough energy to carve a mountain. But in this case, push Captain Marvel through the layers of island, school, and ground. She lands near the entrance of the school in an abandoned village. She's down for the moment. She got knocked the F out. In the danger room, Beast hands both Wolverine and Havoc off to the Winter Soldier as he heads to the operating system. He accesses his AI, Moira. If he can't stop Jean, he can make sure that danger doesn't come to power. He pulls out a USB drive that would theoretically kill Moira, since it's a virus. Moira welcomes her father home. He says that he's sorry for everything and plugs in the device. This does its job. It kills Moira, but unknowingly creates danger. The AI adopted the virus and used it to break its cybernetic chains. Danger makes a body out of parts of the danger room and weaponizes itself. It's alive. Its job? Protect the mutants. Carol wakes up in the dust, seeing the X-Jet with Jean fly off. Her Avengers are being overrun by the X-Men. She gets up slowly, seeing her people being pushed away from the school. A line is drawn between the mutants and the humans. The Winter Soldier and Beast are thrown on the other side of the line with the rest of the Avengers by Danger, who's now joined the X-Men. Cyclops, Wolverine, Havoc, and Angel join the rest of the team. They stand on the steps of Utopia. Carol calls in for the Vision and Wanda for backup. The new Avengers are going to end this fight and find out where Jean is.
Why were they up there this whole time?
Shut up. Cyclops stands in front of his team, as does Captain Marvel. It's time to end it. The X-Men and Avengers charge at each other and fight in a way deemed unimaginable. It's Cyclops versus Captain America Falcon, Winter Soldier versus Gambit, Ant-Man and the Wasp versus Jubilee and Nightcrawler, Havoc versus Captain Marvel, Black Panther and Okoye versus Colossus and Rogue, Storm versus Hulk, Angel and Iceman versus War Machine and Beast, Wolverine versus Spider-Man, Danger versus the Vision. They brawl, they cut, they bruise, they fight. The Avengers start to take the high ground. Ant-Man grows to the giant man, trying to stop the flying mutants. Black Panther makes his way to Nightcrawler, and the two use their speed against each other. T'Challa gets the upper hand, but it's pushed away by Storm. The two Wakandans fight, but Aurora is disrupted by War Machine. Spider-Man dodges the attacks by Wolverine and starts to web him up. He taunts the mutant, saying that he doesn't need the claws because his breath should be a registered weapon. Wolverine is webbed to the ground, and Spider-Man is about to knock Logan out until someone off-camera stops him. An unknown voice tells Peter, "Face it, Tiger. I just hit the jackpot." He's knocked away by Deadpool! Wolverine cuts his way out of the webbing, telling Deadpool that he's late and he won't get paid his full wage. Deadpool responds, "Fair enough, but do you validate?" Wolverine and Deadpool charge at the battle. Deadpool versus Spidey right now.
Oh my god.
And it is Ryan Reynolds. Black Panther continues to fight off Storm and resorts to cutting her arm with his claw. He instantly regrets it, rushing to her aid. She lies in T'Challa's arms amongst the war. They sit together, asking why it had to come down to this. He's sorry, and so is she. Giant Man standing over the battle, hovering above everyone. He sees the damage that the Avengers have caused to the school. They invaded the home of children. He radios to Hope, unsure if he can do this. She asks what else they can do. Wolverine catches up with the Hulk, mentioning how it's been a while, and that he's been looking forward to a rematch. Hulk never wanted to fight. This was never his plan. Wolverine tells him that it doesn't matter what his plan was because he's become the hunter this time. He's doing Ross's dirty work. Professor Hulk stands still as he watches the X-Men and Avengers fight, realizing that Wolverine is right. Cyclops blasts at Falcon Cap, who defends himself with the shield. Scott tells him that he should be ashamed of himself, carrying the shield of a man who would fight against this oppression. Who has before? Weren't you on the other side of this fight the last time fascism entered the superhero world? Sam tells him that he's just trying his best, following his team like Cap would. Scott tells him Captain America doesn't follow the team. He leads it. The two stand still for a moment. Sam is filled with regret. The battle continues, and Carol tries to get clear. She tells War Machine to clear a path in the air because she is going after Jean and Kitty, who left in the jet. She starts to fly up, but Rogue sees this. Rogue gets Colossus to throw her in the air towards Captain Marvel. When she grabs her, Rogue touches Carol's face, absorbing her power. Carol falls to the ground and Rogue floats in the air. She tells Cyclops that she's going to the rendezvous point to provide Jean backup. She soars off at supersonic speed. Danger and Vision fight each other off, but Danger pulls off one of his arms, rips it off. She becomes so powerful and is consumed by her prime directive. She throws the Vision aside and he calls his wife, Wanda, but she's nowhere in sight. Before Danger lands the final blow, the Vision is saved by Beast, who shoots Danger with a cybernetic legacy virus. She falls down but is caught by Hank. She asks if she did her father proud. Beast tells her she's always made him proud. Danger powers down, dying. The battle dies down, for the Avengers see what they've done to the mutants' home. Falcon Cap calls back his team, telling them that the fight's over. Giant Man shrinks down to normal size, holding on to the Wasp. Storm is helped up by Black Panther. Professor Hulk, after years of being big and green, transforms back to Bruce Banner. He realizes that the monster was used exactly how he wished for so long it wouldn't be. A weapon of war. Wolverine picks off the webbing from his suit while paying Deadpool $50 for his services. And there's the sum of an obligatory Ryan Reynolds cameo, he says. He pats Spider-Man on the ass, saying that he still prefers Toby over him. Deadpool goes on with his day. Spidey asks Wolverine, "Who's Toby?" Logan responds, "Guy's crazy, kid. He wouldn't stop calling me Swordfish." Over at the fields where Captain Marvel landed, he's helped up by Cyclops.
Wait, you know what would be really funny too?
Oh god, you're ruining the narrative!
If Wolverine was like, "Wait, who's Toby?" And then Deadpool doesn't give an answer. He just does the scream. It's the scream of Spider-Man 2 when he says doesn't say anything.
Okay. Over at the fields.
Like it cuts to Deadpool and we expect an answer, but he just...
Over at the fields where Captain Marvel just landed, she's helped up by Cyclops. She asks what happened. Cyclops tells her that they've all had enough fighting. The teams are at a standstill. Carol asks what's next for them. Scott wants to make sure his wife is secure before any more conversations are held about the world's fate. Carol realizes that one of her Avengers aren't accounted for. Wanda. Where is she? A worker at the helicarrier reports that she took one of the Quinjets and went after Rogue during the fight. Cyclops knows that Wanda is going after Rogue and probably Jean trying to kill both. Scott and Carol realize that they both have to go together to show that the conflict is over. Carol asks where they're headed. Rogue lands at the abandoned Xavier's home for gifted youngsters in Westchester, New York. She meets with Jean and Kitty, asking if they're okay. Kitty tells her that Jean is having more and more contractions. It's like she can't control herself. She's really feeling this pain, this burn. The baby might be coming soon. The three are found by Wanda. She comes closer to them, saying that this war is going to end now, starting with the thief. Rogue, still with some Captain Marvel energy, stands between her and her friends in the dilapidated halls of Xavier's. She fires back at Wanda, who casually just pushes them away. She unleashes her power on Rogue, shaking her to the core. Behind Wanda enters Cyclops, Captain Marvel, and Beast. Beast is helping still damaged Vision to his feet. They tell her that the battle is over and to stand down. She says that Banner said himself the future won't change, so she might as well do some good in the end. Beast tells her that time can be rewritten and that the world doesn't have to end because they didn't choose to listen. Wanda yells at them, "This isn't because of what will happen to us, it's because of what she did to me." Beast listens to her words and quickly realizes, oh my stars and garters. The prophecy wasn't about Jean. It was about Wanda. She's a mutant. Wanda turns to her Avengers, red blazing eyes. She tells them that when Rogue made her realize she was a mutant, everything didn't have to make sense. Maybe her mind snapped. Maybe the pressure of her past overwhelmed her. She only knows that being a mutant is a disease. But she has the power to cure herself and everyone else. The Vision begs her wife to stop and think. After this, there will be no more second chances for her. She replies, "No, Viz. After this, there will be no more mutants." Wanda lifts her hand.
No.
And snaps her fingers. All we see is white.
What a witch.
On Utopia, the Avengers help the X-Men up. They escort the mutants' students back to their homes. Iceman and Angel are together and work to calm the students alongside Mystique. Amongst the students, a girl's scream can be heard. The heroes rush to the noise. They see a young mutant girl, once with red scales and claws, gone. Her powers have shed. Her mutation slowly but surely leaves her body. She is now a regular little girl. More yells and worry can be heard as this happens to mutants all around the island. The X-Men see this happen. It's painful to watch. It's random. It's horrific. Angel's wings start to shed and demutate. He can't fly anymore. He's held by Iceman and asks what's happening. Nightcrawler's blue skin starts to turn white. His fangs pull back, those bright yellow eyes turn blue, and his tail disappears. Colossus helps his friend Stan. Kurt sees God's judgment across his people. Jubilee, she feels so weak. She falls to the floor and is helped up by Ant-Man and the Wasp. The light inside her that gave her powers is gone. She cries not because she's powerless, but because she can't be an X-Man anymore. The two Avengers comfort her. Spider-Man hears the horror across the torn Utopia. Riddled with guilt, he says to himself, "Not again." Away on Bleecker Street in the Sanctum Sanctorum, Doctor Strange looks outside of his window, with a tear in his eye. He feels the horror that his fellow sorceress has laid upon the world. At Xavier's mansion, Wanda is unconscious on the floor. The Vision comes to her, consoling his disturbed wife. The Beast stands in front of Scott, apologizing, as his fur sheds. He slowly demutates, back to regular skin. He looks in a broken window reflection. He's human. Scott goes to his wife. Jean has lost her power, but all she can focus on is the pain she's in. Scott tells her that they're going to a hospital, but suddenly, his visor powers down. Slowly, he pulls it off. His powers are gone. He can see Jean with his own eyes. He realizes that Wanda did it. Mutants are now going near extinct because of her. He's contacted by Wolverine over the comms. He tells him that something bad is happening to the mutants, and he's asked what he wants to do. Scott has nothing else to say other than, "Oh God." 2 months later, Carol Danvers sits in a waiting room, quiet and content. Her mind is filled with different thoughts and emotions, regrets and wishes. A tall man walks in, with an eye patch and a history with her. Nick Fury. The real one, by the way. She tells him that she's sorry for what she did to his team, his initiative. She's always felt that she had to be the one to save the day. That's not the right mindset for a team leader. Nick tells her that she did the best with what she had. Not all of us can be a Stark or Rogers, but for some of us, that's our job. He brings in Sam Wilson, Captain America. He tells Carol that he's been talking to Sam about a business proposition. Maybe it's time for the Avengers initiative to close. Maybe it's time for something different. Carol agrees and wishes Sam luck. He wishes Carol luck with what she's about to do. Carol leaves the room, met by dozens upon dozens of reporters. She walks through the halls of the Vienna International Center, escorted by Senator Kelly. She approaches the stage, ready to address the United Nations. She tells the delegates that in her time as leader of the Avengers, she's made many mistakes, but she never did anything for naught. Her time as head is over. She's stepping down and disassembling the Avengers. The room fills with questions. She gets hold and remains in control of the announcement. She sent the new Avengers on temporary leave so they can try to make up for their wrongdoings. The speech is intercut with footage. James Rhodes powers down his armor, retiring War Machine. Ant-Man and the Wasp return to San Francisco, hugging their daughter Cassie and their whole family. Spider-Man swings to the top of the Empire State Building, seeing a beautiful sunset that will lead to another day. He gets a call from his aunt to swing by the market to pick up some Chinese. Bruce Banner is in a lab, calm, collected, working with colleagues to help fix this legacy virus. Secretary of State Ross is approached by Nick Fury and Wolverine in his office. They give him an official note of resignation. Federal agents arrest Ross. Wanda sits in a cell that blocks her power, guarded by the Vision, the ever-faithful husband. Bucky pats Sam on the shoulder, proud and confident that Steve is too. An ambassador asks what the status of the mutants are. Carol says, oddly enough, they're stronger than ever. Mutants and post-mutants are looking over each other more than before. Since the mutant population was cut down by 70%, humans have been going out of their way to help mutant kind survive. A new team will be instituted, with Sam Wilson, Captain America, leading. The X-Men are retiring their team as well, but key members will join the new team alongside humans. It will be ultimate. A reporter asks if the mutants can trust humanity again. Carol says that they have to do more than earn their trust back. They have to astonish them. More footage is intercut. Black Panther comes home to Wakanda with Storm hand in hand. They shepherd many mutants affected and unaffected by Wanda's snap to their new home. In Munich, Germany, Colossus and Kitty Pryde are married in the chapel where Peter was given shelter by his best friend Kurt. As the priest, Kurt marries the couple, binding them in holy matrimony in front of Munich. Peter's mother and little sister, and his painting above showing off hope. Rogue, Gambit, Jubilee, and Havoc head to New Orleans, cleaning up the corruption and criminal activity. Though they might not be X-Men anymore, they still have that X factor inside them. Utopia is being rebuilt. Iceman and Angel coordinate different mutants to different construction sites. They found peace together, stability, and a life. On the island, Mystique plays games with some younger mutants, ready to get them ready for the rest of their lives, James Proudstar and the Morlocks included. Beast stays on Utopia, forgiven by Cyclops, as he helps with the construction. He meets a young 10-year-old boy who's lost. His name is Lucas. Lucas Bishop. Hank tells the boy to stick with him, and he'll be okay. Wolverine stands on the shores of Utopia, joined by Scott Summers. Scott asks Logan what he'll do next. Did he think about that job offer from Wilson? Yeah, but Logan isn't sure about it yet. He's lived a long life serving people. Maybe it's time for a break for a while. Scott asks him if he's ready for that. The both chuckle. The former X-Man tells the best there is that Utopia is always his home. They shake hands, and Logan lights a cigar as the sun sets. Scott returns to his home, near the village of a rebuilding Utopia. He sees his love Jean, holding their daughter, Hope. He can see her with his own eyes. Jean asks Scott, what's next? He tells her that he doesn't know, and he's damn happy for it. End of X-Men, Phase 3.
Man. Julius. You alright?
No.
Jeez, man, that was epic. That was epic. What a devastating ending. You know, you totally got that nasty gut feeling in my stomach that I had when I watched the end of Infinity War.
Yeah.
That was epic, man. Seriously.
Thank you.
I loved everything about it. I just love the stakes, you know. I love that because Jean Grey and Cyclops have just this huge connection together, and with the daughter on the way, that they're gonna do whatever it takes to protect her at all costs.
Yeah.
Man, it was glorious.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to stakes, I wanted to make or write something that had the scope of Endgame, but with the conflict of something like Civil War. You know, how would that work? Bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
And I think it worked pretty well.
Very well.
You know, all this time, I've told the story of my own version of the X-Men. Now I'm dealing with other incarnations, like the Avengers.
Yeah.
You know, and that was one of the more interesting things to do, especially since they've announced a lot of things with those characters happening. So I don't think anything would be disrupted with this pitch. You know, I think it would still work out.
It totally worked.
You know, the relationship between Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch sounds like it's really going to be strengthened.
Yeah.
Makes it more heartbreaking in this.
And when we dive more into, like, whenever we get to the Comic-Con news, I think a lot of this stuff that you're pitching with the X-Men, I feel like a lot of it can be seen or set up in the Doctor Strange sequel.
Yeah.
And even WandaVision.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was just a lot that I wanted to add to these characters, especially Captain Marvel, who was who the main complaint of hers, I'd say, is that she's been underwritten a little bit. I wanted to give her a motivation that kind of commentated on that. You know, how people look at her like, oh, she can't, like, I know people listening to this are going to be like, why is she the leader? You know, why isn't Black Panther or Spider-Man or Sam the leader of the Avengers? It's like, well, that's kind of the point of the story, that she is the underappreciated one, you know?
Yeah.
And that she is stubborn.
I mean, the thing I love about her film, what I really loved, is that they expressed in her the human side of Captain Marvel, and how it's okay to be human, how sometimes being human means that you're going to have flaws.
Yeah.
And so even leaders make mistakes, and it's important for leaders to learn from those mistakes. And I think that's representative of her in this story, because she's clearly going with the struggle of, do we go in? Do we dismantle the mutants? It's clearly not an easy choice for her. She sees it as like, this is difficult, but it's necessary, because we don't want to make that same mistake that the previous Avengers did. You know, look where it led them.
I would say mistakes, because they made a lot of mistakes along the way. You know, they're not perfect.
Yeah.
And neither is this team.
Yeah.
Or this leader.
Yeah. It's flawed, but any hard decision will come with inconsistencies, and you know, sometimes you just won't get it right, but you're trying. And that's what I really love about Captain Marvel. She keeps getting back up. That's what I really loved about that just one scene where she's like, yeah, I'm not one of you, I'm human, and that's okay. And it's what made her stronger than ever and made her keep getting up.
Yeah. Well, this is the end of both the X-Men and the Avengers in this phase, you know. Obviously teasing another team, Ultimates, at the very end,
Yeah, man.
which would be the next generation, you know, bringing a lot of other characters together.
Yeah.
Mutant and human alike, you know. Before I make another announcement, is there anything last you want to say?
Well, to answer your question from the previous phase,
the question, yes.
Was it right for Hank to leave
When he did.
And I would say yes, it was correct for him, only because it's only reasonable why he would be on the other side, you know, because he has seen the future and he's trying to bring closure to Scott Summers, because Scott, he hasn't seen the future, he hasn't seen it yet, but Hank is the only one with reason. He has seen it, he has been through it, and he wants to prevent it.
Yeah.
And he's trying to convince them before getting physical. So I think it was vital for him to do that.
Yeah. Hank's role in this phase was kind of a reference to the period of comics where he was an Avenger. So definitely push that. I thought that would have been really cool.
And it's really interesting to see mutants siding with the Avengers. And also with the whole House of M thing that you did too at the end there.
Yeah. There are a lot of inspirations in this.
Yeah.
Civil War 2 was another one.
It made me think about, you're right, with the whole Minority Report thing.
Yeah, the Captain Marvel in that comic, her whole thing is, we know the future. We have to act on it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the whole mutants losing their power, that was horrific.
Yeah.
It was horrific. You're stripping them of...
They're not dead, like, you know, what happened with Thanos and everything.
They're not dead. It's just, when you take away their power, it's a different kind of death. It's reaping them of their souls.
Yes.
You know? But I think that's a really interesting direction, too, because you'll probably have two different kinds of mutants reacting differently.
Yeah.
Ones that embrace their curse being taken away, and others who feel like they've been stolen from.
Yeah, robbed. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the... I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I think that making Scarlet Witch this character who, at first, tried stopping Thanos from doing this, to end up becoming that. The person who would do something, snapping her fingers. There's something really horrific and tragic about that. But she's doing it in the way Thanos did, you know, was thinking, for a good reason. You know, for the betterment of the planet.
Yeah. It would be awesome for them to use that same sound effect that occurs after the snap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if she doesn't snap, she could just say the words and then that sound effect happens after.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's going to be terrifying, because she's a terrifying character, you know. Which was your favorite of all the pitches?
Man, these were all my favorite. But I'd probably go with that last one. Just because
X-Men versus Avengers.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite comics ever.
Right.
But I just love seeing... I love that everything that you've mentioned in the previous phases, you get those ingredients in this one too. And you just get more as well with, you know, the Avengers fighting them and stuff. The future being at stake. The new Ultimates team. And just that whole... That ending, that gut-punching ending, it's just... It was epic. I was there. I was imagining the whole thing as you were talking. Like,
thank you.
It was just wild.
Well, I can't talk anymore.
Yeah, your voice is shot, but you did it, man. You did it.
Thank you. It's the end. Now, obviously, I said that this would be the final phase, part 3. But I'm going to be dealing with 4 soon.
Really?
I got some Fantastic Four stuff in the works.
Let's do it, man.
So, get ready. Get ready. It will play into this a little bit.
Sweet.
All right, everybody. Are you ready for this to end? Because I am. All right. What did you think about the pitches? Holy shit. Look at how long we've been going on. It's 2 hours. Yeah. All right, everybody.
Wow.
Thank you for listening through the whole thing. If you have, I'm Julius.
And I'm Angel.
If you've been listening for 3 years, that means you are subscribed. So get to more subscribing. We're trying to get to 3,000. And after that, we will get to 30,000. Thanks for so much for everything. Goodbye.